The outer edge of Terran space was quiet and dark. Cold stars burned like pale dots in the deep black. Human patrol stations floated between silent rocks and long trails of dust. Every system in this region had one clear rule: do not cross the border without permission. The line was not marked by light or metal. It was known only by signal and memory. Still, every crew in the Terran Navy treated it as real as stone. Far beyond this line, a fleet from the Galactic Empire moved forward. Their ships were sharp and heavy, shaped for power and control. They had passed through many systems without being stopped. Entire worlds had bowed when the Empire arrived. The officers on the lead ship saw Terran space as another prize. They spoke of strength and honor. They laughed at the idea of danger. Then the warning came. A calm voice filled their bridge. It was not loud, it was not angry, it simply spoke with slow care. Entry into Terran space is forbidden, turn back now. The message repeated every few minutes. The Imperial captain frowned. He ordered a scan. His crew found no weapons charging, no fighters launching, only quiet space and that voice. He chose to move forward. On the Terran side, hidden sensors woke from low-power mode. Small lights blinked in distant control rooms. Captain Jake stood in the watch chamber of a hidden station. He was not old, but his face carried long lines of focus. He had guarded this border for many years. Beside him stood Lisa Brown, the station science officer. Her hands rested on a floating panel of data. Her eyes followed the distant shapes of the Empire fleet. She spoke in a soft tone. They did not stop. Jake nodded once. He said nothing at first. He watched the slow advance of the foreign ships. Each one was large. Each one moved with clear purpose. Still, he did not feel fear. He felt a long, steady calm. "Send the second warning," he said. A new signal flowed out into the void. "Entry into Terran space is forbidden. Turn back now, for your safety and for ours." Still they came. Lisa adjusted the sensor field. More data appeared. Ship mass, energy flow, weapon heat. She frowned a little. "They are not preparing to fire," she said. "They think we are weak." Jake gave a small breath. "Let them think that. It will not last long." Far away in a Terran city orbiting a blue gas giant, reports began to spread. People in the halls paused to read small screens. Words like empire and border and warning passed from hand to hand. Some looked afraid. Others looked tired. Wars were not new to the human race. But this time felt different. This time, the warning had come first. Back at the hidden station, Jake opened a private channel to Terran Command. The image of Commander Cole formed in pale light. His face was calm, his voice clear. "They crossed the marker," Jake said. "No sign of retreat." "Then we follow protocol," replied. "No killing blow, only reminder." Jake knew what that meant. A controlled response, a small show of force, enough to shake their belief, not enough to end their lives. On the Empire flagship, the captain stared at the distant darkness. He expected fear. He expected silence. He expected nothing. Instead, space itself seemed to bend for a moment. A narrow beam of pale energy struck the outer hull of one escort ship. The ship did not explode. It did not break apart. All systems went dark in a single breath. Alarms rose across the fleet. "Status," the captain shouted. "No weapons fire detected," an officer replied. "We have lost power on Ship 3. No loss of life." Confusion filled the bridge. The Forbidden Zone now felt less like a myth and more like a rule written in iron. In the shadowed station, Lisa watched the results. Her voice stayed even. Clean strike. No damage beyond systems. Jake lowered his hands. "Hold position," he said. "Let them think." For long minutes, no one moved. The Empire ship slowed. Their formation broke slightly as they tried to understand what had happened. The voice returned again. "Entry into Terran space is forbidden. Turn back now." On a distant Terran colony moon, engineer Amy Parker listened to emergency briefings. Her work base shook as defense grids warmed. She checked systems with steady care. Every panel glowed with soft blue light. She had grown up hearing stories of the Empire, cold rulers, silent takeovers, no choice once they arrived. She hoped the warnings would be enough. She knew they might not be. Near the command layer, strategist Noah Grant traced battle paths across a wide screen. He studied the Empire formation and made quiet notes. They move like they own the stars, he said to no one in particular. They will learn that Terran space does not belong to them. Back at the border, Jake walked slowly across the narrow floor. His boots made soft taps against metal. He remembered older days, before the line, before the warnings, when humans first learned what slept beyond that border, when they learned why the rule had to be strong. Lisa looked at him. Do you think they will leave? He paused. Some will, he said. Some will not understand until it is too late. They both went quiet as the Empire fleet shifted again. New signals burst from their side, short, sharp, demanding Terran station, identify or be boarded. Jake did not send a reply. The warning spoke instead, calm, steady, patient. Still the ships drifted closer. On the Empire bridge, the captain felt his pride twist into anger. They dared to speak to him like a child. He ordered another slow advance. His officers obeyed, but their eyes showed doubt. In the hidden station, Lisa's panel flashed red for a moment. Gravitational markers changing, she said. Defense nets activating. Jake watched far screens as faint lines of energy formed across dark space. Invisible walls began to shape themselves. This was still mercy, still a chance to turn back. Even now, he hoped they would choose wisely. In Terran homes light years away, families sat close together as news streams whispered through the air. Parents spoke soft words to calm children. Elders stared at the stars through clear windows. Many remembered older battles. Many whispered quiet hopes that this one would not become another grave. On a lonely patrol path, a small Terran craft drifted near the border. Its pilot, Watson, studied the distant fleet. She felt a slow chill pass through her hands. She was not meant for full battle. She was meant for watch and wait. Still, her craft carried its share of silent strength. She opened a channel to the station. They are still pushing, she said. Jake acknowledged her with a brief reply. Stay clear, observe only. Tightened her grip and kept her distance. Back in the Empire command ring, distant leaders spoke in harsh tones. They saw the warning as insult. They saw the silent strike as rebellion. Their council began to suggest larger force, more ships, heavier pressure. The captain listened with tense jaw. He obeyed the final order, advance further, show no fear. And so the fleet moved once more, slower now, cautious, yet still crossing the edge of what should not be crossed. Jake felt the shift in energy. The calm around him grew deep and heavy. He knew the next step would not be gentle. He spoke into the channel again. Prepare phase 2. Hold precision limits. Lisa nodded. Her fingers danced over light keys. Complex patterns formed in silent space. Fields of force, subtle and unseen, took shape around the intruding ships. The first Empire cruiser lurched as its path bent sideways. Engines strained. Control panels flickered. A second ship drifted offline. The fleet began to lose its proud shape. On the bridge, voices rose in panic. Gravity distortion, a panicked officer said. We are losing vector control. The captain slammed his fist on the rail. Stabilize and push through. But space itself no longer agreed with him. On Terran ground, Noah watched the data stream and let out a quiet breath. They are still not learning, he said. Amy, checking power flow, answered without looking up. They will soon. In the hidden station, Jake's face stayed firm. The warning voice echoed one final time. Entry into Terran space is forbidden. Turn back now. Still, on the far side, the Empire chose pride over sense. Their ships pressed forward into a region that did not wish them there, and the first part of their long mistake began to unfold in cold, silent stars. The crippled Empire escort ship drifted like a silent stone between the stars. Its engines were dark. Its lights had gone out. Only weak backup power kept air flowing and heat alive. Crew members moved through dim corridors with hand lamps. They spoke in low voices, full of worry and confusion. On the Empire flagship, the captain stared at a flat display that showed the motionless outline of his disabled vessel. He wanted to believe it was a simple failure, a mistake, a rare fault in the ship's core, but he had seen the thin beam of light. He had watched it strike with perfect aim. No blast, no fire, just a quiet death of power. He turned toward his officers. "They used strange energy," he said. "No known weapon in our records does that." One of his senior advisors shook her head slowly. "Perhaps it is an old device," she answered. "Perhaps one they found." The captain did not like words such as perhaps. He liked numbers and clear answers. He tightened his jaw. "Send another signal to them. Demand a reply." His communication officer obeyed. Once more the Imperial message cut into the border region. "Unknown Terran station. Identify your command and purpose. You are in violation of Imperial law. If you do not respond, we will consider you hostile." The message rushed across the void and reached the hidden Terran station. There, in the soft glow of sensor panels, Lisa Brown watched the wave pattern. She looked to Captain Jake. "Are we going to answer?" Jake stood with hands behind his back. His eyes were on the large central display. It showed the Empire fleet in dull shapes of light. One ship was marked as disabled. Others were highlighted as they shifted and tried to adjust their formation in the strange gravitational fields. "No," he said at last. "The warning is enough." Lisa nodded. She knew the rule. Terran command did not argue with forces that crossed the line. The warning was clear. The consequences spoke for themselves. Elsewhere in Terran space, the first official reports reached high command. In a secure hall deep within a fortified station, Commander Cole stood over a broad display of moving markers. His hair was short, his face calm and steady. He listened as a quiet voice gave a summary. "Border station reports successful lethal strike," the voice said. "One Empire ship disabled. Fleet continues to probe defense fields. No casualties." Looked up at the projected fleet. The Empire ships looked large even in simple diagrams. He could hear faint murmur from other officers nearby. Some wanted to strike harder. Others wanted to open talks. He raised his hand for silence. "Send this down the chain," he ordered. "Phase 2 may be authorized, but only under direct confirmation. No kill shots. We hold the line and we hold our restraint." The officers nodded and went to carry out his instructions. On the colony moon where Amy Parker worked, the air hummed with the sound of heavy machines. Defense grids drew in extra power. Long barrels of mass drivers turned in slow arcs toward deep space. Amy moved between panels, checking each link with care. She watched numbers rise and settle. She spoke into a small, calm piece. "Defense Grid 3 online," she said. "Power stable, ready for command input." Noah Grant's voice answered her. "Understood. Keep it that way. We might have to show them more than one warning." Noah stood in a command room filled with floating tactical images. He wore a simple dark uniform. No extra marks, only a small sign of rank on one shoulder. He believed that actions mattered more than decorations. His eyes followed the Empire fleet's slow path as it slipped and pushed inside the twisted gravity patterns. He zoomed in on the disabled ship. "They have not abandoned it," he noted. "They still think they can solve this like a problem on a board." One of his aides spoke. "Should we prepare a direct message, sir, and offer to talk?" Noah shook his head. "Not yet. They ignored the simple warning. If we speak too soon, they will think we are begging. They need to feel the cost of pride first." Back at the border, the Empire captain received no response from Terran command. This silence cut him more deeply than any insult. He had served the Empire for many years. He had commanded victories over harsh worlds and stubborn rebels. Always enemies shouted. They made threats. They cursed. They pleaded. He knew how to answer those sounds. But this calm voice that only repeated the same words and then fell silent, that unsettled him. He called his senior officers together in the main briefing room. The room was a narrow oval lined with soft dark panels. A holographic image of the border region floated in the center. "We have tested their defenses and found them sharp," he said, "but we have only seen a hint. Our disabled ship still breathes. That means they chose not to destroy it. They held their strike." One officer, younger and eager, leaned forward. "Perhaps they are weak," he said. "Perhaps that was the best they can do." The advisor who had spoken earlier shook her head again. "If that was the best they can do," she said, "they would not sound so calm." The captain listened to both. Then he spoke in a low voice. "The council expects results. They sent us because they think Terran space is a small problem." He looked at the map. "We will show them what we find here. Prepare a formal request for reinforcements. Long range, high priority." He knew that message would take time to reach the core worlds and return with an answer. But he also knew the Empire rarely refused such requests. In the silent miles between fleets, small Terran observation drones watched everything. They were the size of small cars, painted black, with no bright lights. They rode the edges of gravity fields like schools of fish in a fast river. Their cameras and sensors recorded each movement of the Empire ships. They sent streams of quiet data back to Terran command. In one of the analysis rooms, Lisa shifted her attention to these drone feeds. "Look at their engines," she said softly. "They run hot, very hot. If they push too hard inside the field, they will tear themselves apart." Jake listened. He had seen that kind of failure before. Some of the earliest defense tests had ended with broken ships and burned metal. That was before they learned how to guide the fields with precision. "Send the data to Noah," he said. "He will want to know their limits." While military minds studied angles and power levels, life for many humans went on in smaller, slower ways. On a mid-ring habitat station, a school teacher named Price tried to hold the attention of her students. Outside the long window of their classroom, stars drifted by. She spoke in a gentle voice. "Today we learn about early space wars." She saw some children glancing at the news feed icon in the corner of the room's display. She knew they had heard whispers about the Empire. One child raised his hand. "Is there going to be a war now?" Paused. She had no right to give false comfort and no wish to feed fear. She chose simple truth. "Some people are making dangerous choices far away," she said. "But many brave and careful people are working to keep us safe. Our job is to keep learning and to stay kind to each other." That was the kind of quiet strength that Terran culture had grown into over many years. Not loud, not full of slogans, just a calm promise to stand together. Far from the classroom, in the hush of a secure research facility, Dr. Dawson watched a different set of readings. He did not look at Empire ships. His screens showed subtle lines of force near the deep outer regions of Terran space. He had been assigned there for a long time. He knew what those lines meant. "They are pulling at the cage," he whispered. His assistant, a young researcher named, frowned. "The cage? You mean the sealed lair?" Nodded. "Yes. The shield we built around the old thing. The thing we do not speak about in simple words." Swallowed. "Is it reacting to the Empire?" "Not directly," said. "But the energy we use to hold our line, the fields we push and twist to move their ships, all of that stirs the old patterns. We knew this might happen. That is why the warning is so strict." He sent a short, high-security report to Terran Command. It did not speak of aliens or monsters. It used careful terms. Containment field fluctuation level increased. Risk of external disturbance rising. Recommend limiting high-intensity engagements near outer edges. The report arrived on Cole's desk while the commander was still studying new fleet positions. He read it twice and felt a small weight settle in his chest. Here was the deeper problem. Not only an empire fleet, not only pride and war. Behind it all, the old danger. He recorded a message for the council. "We must hold the line without waking the deep object," he said. "And we must do it in a way that even the empire will understand." Back at the border, events began to move faster. One of the Empire ships tried a bold move. It cut its engines suddenly and used a burst of controlled plasma to push sideways through the strange gravity field. For a moment, the maneuver worked. The ship slipped out of the main distortion and moved closer toward Terran space. In the hidden station, alarms flashed. Lisa leaned forward. "They found a narrow path," she said. Jake's voice grew sharp. "Correct the field. Gently, do not crush them." She moved her hands in quick, small motions. Far away, the invisible forces shifted. The Empire ship that had tried to slip through began to spin, not fast enough to kill its crew, just enough to remind them that the galaxy itself seemed against their progress. On the Empire bridge, officers struggled to steady the ship. Their pilot cursed under his breath. "This is not natural," he shouted. "Someone is playing with us." The captain clenched his teeth. "Withdraw that ship back into main formation," he ordered. "No more clever moves without my command." He knew they were being pushed like children away from a fire. He did not like it. He had been told the Empire's strength had no equal in this region. Now he faced an enemy he could not even see. Back on the Terran patrol craft, Watson watched the distant struggle through her bright lens. She spoke quietly. "If they keep pushing, they are going to break themselves." The voice from the station came back. "That is their choice," Jake said. "Our task is to make sure they do not break anything else." As hours passed, the Empire's request for reinforcements rushed along tight beams of data toward the core. On a distant throne world, council members would soon argue over maps and pride. But for now, at the edge of Terran space, only the first teams on both sides faced each other. Noah Grant stood very still as he watched the updated positions. He spoke over a secure line too. "They will not turn back," Noah said, "not without a stronger push." Exhaled slowly. "I know, but we cannot push too hard. Sent new readings. The cage is stirring." Noah did not like that news. No strategist likes to fight with one hand tied. Yet he understood. If the old danger woke, any war with the Empire would look small. "We need a different kind of move," he said. "Something that speaks to their pride. Something that says we are not a minor world." He thought for a long moment. Then he smiled a little without humor. "Authorize a controlled strike on their flagship shields only, nothing more. Darken them. Show them that even their strongest armor is not enough." Hesitated. "That is close to a kill line," he said. "Not if we do it right," Noah answered. "Lisa and Jake can handle the precision. We make their bridge go dark for 1 minute, no longer. Then we let the lights come back. No hull breach, no loss of life." Considered, then he nodded. "Do it." Orders traveled through secure lines and arrived at the hidden station. Lisa read the details and felt her heartbeat rise. This would be a delicate shot. One mistake and the flagship could die. Jake stepped beside her. "Can you do it?" She met his eyes. "Yes, but the timing must be perfect." Small patrol craft adjusted position to get a clearer view. Amy's defense grids on the colony moon shifted to standby, in case things went wrong. Noah watched from his command room, every muscle quiet. In the station, Lisa began. She aligned fields across vast distances. Markers lit up on her screen as she built a narrow path through the invisible curves of gravity and energy. Then she waited for the right moment, when the Empire flagship's shields rotated through a weaker phase. "Now," Jake said. Lisa touched the final control. In the deep far space, a thin lance of modified energy leaped out. It was not bright. It did not roar. It slipped through the distorted gravity like a whisper through tall grass. It touched the flagship's shield at a single point and climbed across the surface in a smooth wave. Inside the Empire flagship, every light went out at once. For one long minute there was no power, no readings, no sound except the quick breaths of living people. The artificial gravity held. Life support kept running on hidden backups, but from the view of the bridge crew, their ship had become a dark coffin. In that dark, the captain felt something he had not felt since he was a young officer on his first mission. Honest fear. Then just as suddenly, the lights came back. Panels returned to life, screens filled with data. Systems one by one reported that they were still intact. No hull damage, no lost sections. Only the echo of that silent darkness remained. The captain looked at his hands. They were shaking. He forced them to stillness and turned to his crew. "Report." An officer answered, voice unsteady. "Unknown external effect. No equal in our logs. Shields were bypassed and reset. No core damage. We are whole." The advisor spoke in a near whisper. "They could have killed us," she said. "They chose not to." The captain knew she was right. His pride fought with his reason. He knew the council would not want to hear that they had been spared as a lesson, but he also knew what he had just felt in that heavy minute. He sent a new message into the void. This one was shorter. "Terran Command," he said, "you have made your point. We request formal talks to prevent further incidents." The message reached the hidden station. Lisa looked at Jake. "That sounds like sense." Jake agreed, "Maybe, but do they speak for the whole Empire?" In truth, the captain did not. He spoke for his fleet. Far away, the council would soon demand more strength, not less, more proof of Empire might. But at that border, for a brief time, someone on the Empire side had looked into quiet darkness and felt how small they were. Terrans logged the message. Noah and studied it. They both knew this was only the first step. They had shown the Empire a fraction of their ability and a piece of their choice for mercy. And far beneath the calm voice of the warning, deep within sealed layers of the outer system, the old cage trembled again. Watched the lines on his screen and felt a cold touch on his skin. "We are running out of room to move," he murmured. "We must end this before the Empire forces us to open the door we never want to open." So while fleets held position and leaders sent messages, unseen pressure grew in the dark. The Empire had been warned. They had been spared. But their pride and their power would soon call for a larger answer. And Terran space, bound by its promise to guard the old secret, prepared for the next stage of a conflict that was no longer just about borders, but about the safety of the whole galaxy. The message from the Empire captain hovered in silence between the fleets. It carried a note of respect, but also fear. Inside the Terran hidden station, Jake studied the signal and said nothing. Lisa Brown watched the steady flow of data from the border and felt a quiet tension in her shoulders. "He asks for talks," Lisa said. "Do we answer?" Jake did not rush. Every choice here changed the shape of what came next. He remembered old lessons. Speak too softly and the Empire would see weakness. Strike too hard and the old cage might break. "Send it up the chain," he replied at last. "Command will decide." The signal passed through secure channels and reached Cole and Noah Grant. Both men knew that this was only one voice in a massive empire. They also knew that fear, once felt, could grow into caution or snap into rage. Noah folded his arms and leaned closer to the floating display. "If we accept talks too soon," he said, "their council will claim victory. They will paint this as proof that pressure works." Nodded. "If we refuse, they will say we are hostile and bring more ships. We walk on thin ground either way." He looked again at Dawson's warning about the deep field. Every time Terran defenses rose in power, the readings around the ancient cage spiked. The longer this standoff lasted, the worse that would grow. They chose a careful middle path. A short reply went back to the border. "Terran Command acknowledges your signal. Hold position. Further movement will result in response." Talks will be considered once full withdrawal begins. When the Empire captain read it, his lips pressed into a hard line. Withdrawal, he murmured. They speak as if they own the stars. The advisor beside him spoke gently. They own this region, and they have shown they can hurt us without trying. His pride burned, but the memory of the dark minute on the bridge still lived in his bones. He sent the reply to his council and awaited further command. Hours passed, then more. New warp signatures bloomed on the edge of sensors. Massive shapes tore into view. The requested reinforcements had arrived sooner than he expected. A second wave of Imperial ships surged into the region, heavy and crowded, their hulls layered with bright marks of rank and power. Command channel opened. A new voice, cold and sharp, filled his bridge. "Captain, this is Overseer. We have come to remove this insult to Imperial authority. Explain your delay in enforcing dominance." The captain straightened. "Terran space defends itself with unknown methods," he said. "They are not a simple world." His voice held no patience. "No world stands above the Empire. We move as ordered, push through their line, crush resistance, bring submission." The captain wanted to argue. He wanted to warn, but command was command. He gave the order even as he felt unease coil in his core. On the Terran side, Lisa saw the new ships arrive. Her eyes widened. "Fleet mass rising fast," she said. "This is not a probe, this is force." Jake's voice turned low. "They chose war." He opened the channel to know a second wave inbound. Numbers high, aggressive posture. Noah watched it all. His jaw tightened. "Phase 3, he said. "Full defensive pattern but maintain control. No lethal core strikes unless directly fired upon." Across Terran systems, defense grids woke to higher alert. Amy Parker felt the change as power levels surged. Lights shifted from calm blue to bright gold. Her hands moved faster as she stabilized lines and fed data to command. People across colonies watched the news feeds. Silence spread in rooms. Fear mixed with trust. They believed in the wall that guarded them, even if they could not see it. Near the border, Watson kept her patrol ship steady. The stars ahead filled with the growing shape of the Empire force. Her breath slowed as she saw weapons ports opening along their hulls. "Station," she whispered, "they are charging weapons now." Jake did not hesitate. "Defense hold. Do not escalate, let them fire first." The Empire fleet moved like a dark storm. Overseer ordered a concentrated burst against the distorted space fields. Bright lances of raw energy sliced forward, burning lines through the void. Impacts flared as they struck the unseen barrier. Space itself shimmered. The Terran defense field bent and folded, absorbing the strikes. Power surged through the containment network. Far away, monitors spiked high. He felt his stomach tighten. The cage reacted again, faint but real. He sent another urgent note. "Field stress rising sharply. Recommend reducing output intensity or relocating combat range." Read it while watching the shield absorb a second wave of fire. They cannot reduce pressure now. Not while the Empire pressed like this. Back at the border, the Empire bombardment grew heavier. His voice was filled with hard satisfaction. Their shield strains, increase output, direct impact on the core of their line. Fire poured forward. The unseen Terran wall groaned under the force, but still did not break. Noah spoke through the command channel. "Controlled pushback, now." Lisa's hands moved in quick, elegant patterns. The defense field shifted from passive wall to active current. Waves of directed force surged outward, not striking ships directly, but twisting the space around them. Empire vessels suddenly found their aim thrown off. Beams bent wide. Targeting lost shape. One cruiser slammed sideways into another. Hulls scraped. Alarms shrieked across their decks. On its flagship, officers shouted, "The field is destabilizing our firing lines. Adjust phase channels." Push through it snapped, overwhelmed them. More ships poured energy. But the field did not answer with greater force. Instead, it began to guide their movements. Channels opened, drawing them into narrow corridors. Gravity pulled at their hulls, not crushing but trapping. Jake watched the pattern with steady eyes. "Trap sequence forming," he said. Lisa allowed a small breath. "Perfect alignment. They are moving where we want them." In Noah's command room, a large pattern formed on the map. Empire ships were guided into a curved arc near a dead region of space where gravity flowed like slow water. They did not yet see the net closing around them. The Empire did. Captains shouted orders. Engines roared. Some ships tried to retreat but found their path twisted. Others tried to break free with violent bursts of force, only to be caught again. His voice sharpened. "What sorcery is this?" An officer replied, panic clear. "Local space compliance has been altered. We are being herded." Struck the console. "Force break through. All guns on that station. I will not be guided like prey." Yet even as fire erupted, the missiles and beams curved away. The Terran side returned only precision strikes, disabling power nodes, sensor towers, control arrays. Each hit was careful, exact. No ships were destroyed. Every blow said the same calm thing: "You were warned." On one damaged Empire bridge, crew members looked to their leader with wide eyes. They could see now that the enemy could end them at will, and yet did not. Back on Earth orbit, watched the cage readings rise again. The quiet calm lines now shimmered with small jittering shifts. He feared what would happen if the Empire forced Terran systems to push beyond safe limits. He sent another report. Stress increasing. Containment resonance nearing threshold. Sustained conflict risk unacceptable. Clenched his jaw as he read it. This fight could not last much longer. Either the Empire or Terrans would be forced into a terrible choice. He opened a secure channel to his fleet, overriding their encryption for one brief moment. This, in itself, was a show of power. "Terran Command has not authorized lethal action," his voice echoed through his bridge. "You are endangering more than your fleet. Withdraw now. This is your final warning." Stared at the glowing text of the message. His anger was fierce, but doubt now crept into his thoughts. He had not expected to feel powerless. He had not expected to be spoken to like a child in front of his crew. The first captain, who had started this encounter hours earlier, leaned closer and spoke low. "Overseer, they are not bluffing. They can end us." His eyes burned. "The Empire does not retreat," he said, but his voice held the faintest crack. Then the net closed. The curved gravity corridor sharpened around the fleet. Movement slowed. Weapons systems flickered in and out. Guidance links failed. The Empire ships found themselves locked in place as if the stars themselves rejected them. In this forced stillness, they could finally see the scale of their mistake. Some crews began to panic. Others went silent. Captains sent conflicting orders. Chaos rippled through their ranks. The Empire had no answer for this kind of war, no clear line to strike, no target to crush. On the Terran side, Lisa held steady. Her eyes never left the displays. Jake stood beside her, posture relaxed, yet alert. "They are contained," she said. "Full arc trap hold." Jake nodded. "Do not tighten further unless they fire again." Noah watched the Empire struggle and felt no triumph, only concern. This level of field control already pressed close to the limits warned about. Behind his calm, he knew something else. The Empire would not accept humiliation lightly. If survived this and returned to his core worlds, he would speak of this as a disgrace that must be washed with blood. And yet if they destroyed the fleet here, they risked far more than war. In one of the trapped Empire ships, the first captain sat in quiet thought. His bridge was damaged but functioning. He looked out on a screen that showed twisted space and the distant flicker of Terran defense patterns. He remembered how he had laughed at the warning. He spoke quietly to his crew. "Prepare a ceasefire signal. Open channel to Terran command. No weapons active." His officers obeyed. The signal reached Jake's station. Lisa raised her head. First Fleet Captain requests ceasefire and safe withdrawal. Jake allowed a slow breath out. Transmit authorization for retreat corridor, narrow and monitored. Space shifted again. A path opened in the curved field, guiding that group of ships away from the trap. They moved slow and careful, like injured animals being released from a net. Saw this and felt rage twist into harsh understanding. They were not just defending themselves. They were showing him mercy in front of his own force. Pride screamed at him to reject it. Reason whispered that the longer he held this stand, the more danger he brought not just to his fleet, but perhaps to things he did not yet understand. He opened a line to Imperial Command and spoke in careful terms. Terran defenses exceed projections. Continued engagement will result in unacceptable losses and strategic failure. Recommend temporary withdrawal and re-evaluation. Silence followed. Then the Council replied with cold words. You will not shame the Empire. Withdraw position 5% only. Resume pressure in measured force. Closed the channel and stared at the void. He now understood that the real danger was not just Terrans. It was the pride of his own leaders. As the battle line held, a strange quiet took shape. Two powers locked in silent contest. Ships caught in a calm but deadly grip. Terrans pushing just enough to hold. Empire refusing to accept what it had seen. And deep within the guarded layers of Terran space, the old cage trembled once more. Its quiet burden shifted under growing strain. Watched the slow pattern of warning lights and felt dread settle in his bones. The Empire had made its choice, and that choice was stretching the thin line that kept something far worse asleep. The trapped Empire fleet hung in careful silence. Ships floated inside the curved force field like frozen leaves on still water. Some engines whispered at low power. Crew moved slowly, afraid to disturb the unseen wall that held them. Across Terran space, watchers waited for the next breath of war. In the research facility near the deep outer system, Dawson stood before a wide window of pale light. Lines of data moved like thin threads across his main display. Each flicker showed the state of the ancient cage. The soft pulsing light that marked stable containment now jittered in uneven rhythm. He felt the change in his bones before any number confirmed it. The conflict was stirring what should remain silent. Opened a high-priority channel to Cole. The levels are rising faster, he said. If the strain passes current limits, the shell will weaken. We are close to a threshold we never wanted to test. Listened in tight silence. Outside his command room, alarms were quiet, but the heavy stillness in the air spoke of danger. How long do we have? Studied the shifting lines. Hours if the pressure stays the same, minutes if it gets worse. Turned to Noah Grant. You heard him. Noah nodded slowly. If we push the Empire harder, we risk the cage. If we retreat outright, they will press again and again. Watch the trapped fleet on the large display. So we show them the truth, all of it, even if it costs us trust. Noah's eyes widened a little. We have kept that secret for generations. His voice stayed calm. Better to share the danger than to let them wake it by force. Orders moved through quiet, secure lines. Jake and Lisa Brown received them with grave faces. Lisa looked up. They want us to open a deep channel. Jake nodded. Controlled projection only, carefully limited. The hidden station shifted power flow. The force field around the Empire ships remained firm, but a new signal began to form. It was not a beam, not a strike. It was a layered data stream and visual wave, shaped to enter foreign systems without harm. On's flagship, screens flared to life. A new image filled the bridge. It was a simple three-dimensional map of Terran space, but deeper than any they had seen. It showed the border, the defense grid, and far within, a dark region marked by bright warning patterns. His voice carried through the channel. This is why entry was forbidden. This is not about pride or control. This is about containment. The image shifted. It showed ancient ruins buried in the cold distance beyond the outer planets, strange structures of unknown design, energy lines wrapped around a central void. Leaned forward slowly. His anger faltered into wary attention. Continued. Long before the Empire spread its reach, humanity discovered something here, an entity older than any of us. It does not think as we do. It does not live as we do. When it stirs, entire systems go dark. Another image appeared. Simulations of stars collapsing, fleets swallowed by shadow, wide regions of space falling silent. "We built the cage to keep it asleep," said. "Every defense you face is also part of that restraint. Every warning you ignored was meant to protect more than us." Silence settled on the Empire bridge. Officers exchanged uneasy looks. Earlier certainty shattered into cautious dread. "Is this a threat?" he asked at last. "No," answered. "It is the truth. Your attacks strain our control fields. Every strike brings risk. We guard this not only for our own worlds but for all who move between the stars." On the first captain's ship, crew watched the same projection. Many felt cold hands grip their hearts. They saw at last the depth of what they had challenged. Straightened, "You should have told us this sooner." "We warned you to stay away," said simply. "You chose not to listen." Looked back at the dark center of the map. "If what you say is real, then this conflict must end." Nodded. "That is our intent. Withdraw your forces beyond the border. Stand down all weapons. No further movement toward the marked region." Hesitated only a moment. His pride had already been wounded. Now fear and reason spoke louder. He opened his command channel to the Empire fleet. "All units, power down heavy weapons. Hold position for retreat sequence." Some captains protested. Others obeyed at once. In the hidden station, Lisa watched the change in signals. "Weapons signatures dropping," she said. "Fleet compliance at 60% and rising." Jake allowed a slow breath. "Guide their withdrawal through controlled corridors. Keep pressure low but steady." The curved force field softened along selected paths. Trapped ships began to move, slow and careful, following the only safe lines given to them. Terran systems adjusted in gentle rhythm, guiding the Empire away from the danger zone without harsh thrust. Far away, saw the containment lines ease just slightly. The cage's jitter settled into a calmer pattern. He whispered a quiet thanks to no one and everyone at once. On the command bridge, watched the slow retreat. Each meter away from Terran space felt like a step from the edge of a deep cliff. He opened a final private line to. "Your restraint spared my fleet," he said, "and perhaps more than that. The Empire owes you a debt it may not admit aloud." Answered with no flourish. "Remember this when pride tempts your leaders again." Once the last of the Empire ships crossed back beyond the marked boundary, the Terran defense net relaxed further. Invisible walls into silent standby. Space returned to its cold quiet. Across Terran colonies, people released long-held breaths, screens filled with soft light and calm status lines. No cheers rose, only a deep, tired relief. On the colony moon, Amy Parker leaned against a warm panel and closed her eyes for a moment. "Power levels steady," she said softly. "Grid returning to normal cycle." Noah Grant watched the final fleet icons shrink into the distance. He knew this peace was fragile, but for now it held. Watson guided her small patrol craft back along a familiar path. Stars glittered ahead like silent witnesses. She felt proud, but also humble. She had seen how close everything came to breaking. In the research facility, kept his eyes on the cage long after the battle ended. The lines pulsed with a slow, deep rhythm, like a vast sleeping breath. It was quiet once more, but not forgotten. He whispered again, "Rest." Back on Earth and its orbiting cities, people moved back into daily rhythms. Children returned to lessons. Workers returned to simple tasks. but quiet conversations carried a deeper tone. They remembered that the warning was not an act of fear, but an act of care. On the Empire side faced a different storm. The Council's messages cut sharp and cold. They spoke of humiliation and weakness. They demanded reasons. Stood before them via deep link and shared everything he had seen. The projection of the ancient cage, the strain on space, the calm control of Terran power. If we force conflict there again, he said, we may wake a force that will not spare Empire or Terran or any other world. Some council members scoffed, others fell silent. The older voices among them began to remember old legends, half-myths about dead zones in space and vanished fleets. Words no longer seemed like cowardice, but like wisdom shaped by fear. A formal message was eventually sent to Terran command. Imperial fleets will respect current Terran boundaries pending further negotiation. Diplomatic channels requested for long-term understanding. Read it and allowed himself a small nod. It was not forgiveness, but it was distance, and distance kept the cage quiet. Weeks passed. Trade routes reopened around safe corridors. Neutral systems resumed slow motion. The Empire did not press again, at least not yet. Within Terran space, talk grew of a new balance, of quiet lines drawn not by force but by shared danger. Jake and Lisa Brown stood once more in the watch chamber of the hidden station. The border lay calm and empty before them. "Do you think they really understand now?" Lisa asked. Jake looked out into the dark. "Some of them do. Enough maybe for the moment." "And the rest," she said. "Will learn," he answered, "or stay away." In the deep outer system, the old entity slept on, wrapped in human-made light and silent care. It knew nothing of pride or empire or warning lines, but it felt the shifting patterns of the cage and turned slightly within its endless dream. Humanity stood as the quiet keeper of that line, not because it wished to rule, but because it understood what waited beyond broken restraint. And so the Galactic Empire, with all its power and reach, began to treat Terran space not as a boundary to conquer, but as a door wisely left closed.